Inheritance. Considering buying someone or someone's out, things to think about. That's our topic today. We'll get started right after this. I'm going to share with you key considerations when considering buying someone out so that you have a smooth transaction. We'll talk about tax implications, mortgage considerations, appraisal, the appraisal process, accuracy of legal documentation, the role of real estate agents, consideration for rental properties, and how to protect all parties involved. Hi, I'm Kim Ward. I'm a real estate broker here in San Diego County. Our team helps executors, administrators, and trustees through the real estate process of preparing, marketing, and successfully selling homes while protecting our clients all along the way. Let's discuss tax implications. I have another video that talks all about property taxes and how Proposition 19 potentially takes away the low property taxes that your loved one has been enjoying and increases the property taxes for the estate up to the current market value. To just briefly touch on what happens with Proposition 19, it's where when your loved one passes away, as of their date of death, the San Diego County Tax Assessor will reassess the property taxes up to the current market value of the home. What this can cause for families and the estate is the inability to keep the home, say for instance as a rental property, because the property taxes have increased so much that it really doesn't make sense to keep the property. And the rental income received, minus all the expenses, including the severely increased property taxes, it no longer makes sense for families to be able to keep the homes. You'll also want to make sure about any type of capital gain situation before you choose to buy out a family member or family members. It's really important that when considering doing a buyout of your loved one's home and paying off the rest of the beneficiaries, you want to make sure that you get all the legal advice you need and make sure that you speak with a tax professional about any tax complications or situations that may occur. Let's move into mortgage considerations. Most mortgages are unassumable, and that means that you really can't keep your loved one's mortgage in place after you would take over the home, meaning have your name put onto the title instead of your loved one's. What that means is you're going to have to find a mortgage and it's going to be at the current interest rates. I know that kind of stinks because it would be nice to be able to keep the low interest rate instead of today's rates, but in most cases, like I said, mortgages are not assumable. If you're here in San Diego County, I've got a great lender that I can introduce you to. The next thing would be the appraisal process. I think it's important to get 2 appraisals when you're considering buying out your family members or the beneficiaries. That way you'll have 2 independent appraisals that you can then present to the beneficiaries so they know the current market value of your loved one's home. I also think that it's important that once you have a value from those 2 appraisals, that you be able to remove 5% off of that value. Why? Because you most likely won't need me or any type of real estate advice or help through that process. And that's typically around the amount that we have for commissions. Of course, commissions are negotiable, but I'm just giving you the number of 5% so that you can speak with the other beneficiaries of removing that amount and why. If you're involved with a probate, then there's going to be what's called a probate referee appraisal. And that's the date of death appraisal for your loved one. That is not the current market value. So if your loved one passed away 9 months ago and you're just at the point where the home can be sold, you're going to need updated appraisals to make sure what the current market value is for the beneficiaries, including yourself. Let's move on to the accuracy of legal documents. If you are through the other things, the mortgage, the appraisal, and the beneficiaries have agreed to a buyout situation, you're going to move on to making sure that all the documentation is done legally so that everyone's protected, everyone's informed, and that once you own the property, there can't be any more complications of someone not feeling informed and maybe coming back and complaining. This is where I would recommend that you hire some type of guidance, either in an estate or real estate attorney or a real estate company that would represent you through that process so that you're protected. Because there's a lot of documentation when you sell a home in California or buy a home in California, and you want to make sure all the documentation is fully completed. And now let's move on to if you're considering buying out the rest of the beneficiaries so that you can have a rental property. This is what you should consider. You want to make sure that you learn what is all involved in being a property owner or a landlord. You may want to take advantage of a resource, nolo.com, Nolo.com. They have all the documentation and the paperwork and a really good book about how to be a landlord here in California. It's the California Landlord's Rights and Responsibilities book. That way you can educate yourself of being a property owner and a landlord, especially if you're not going to be using a property management company. It's really important that you make sure everyone is involved and fully educated and communicated with while going through this process of potentially buying out the other beneficiaries of a loved one's home. And the last thing is you're going to want to make sure that you keep notes on who you spoke with and even follow up with emails so that you have clear communication with everyone and their acceptance of the terms of the buyout. I hope you found this of value. Again, I'm Kim Ward. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the comments below. We do our best to answer all the questions, and if you have a comment, we read those too. Thanks, I'll see you next week.